Thank you, Susan. It's great to be part of this. I have enjoyed working with you tremendously, and thank you so much for inviting me.
You and I have talked a little bit about the $1 million gifts that you were actually able to close during this time. Can you tell me what you think contributed to your success in being able to close those gifts during this time?
Sure, it's a lot of things, but at the heart of everything we do is the deep relationship between our donors, who are our closest friends and champions, and the doctors and scientists and leaders at Mass Eye and Ear. So we were fortunate to have campaigns worth of good, strong, loyal friends at that time. So continuing to build their trust and gain their excitement in our programs was really not that challenging. It was kind of doing more of what we'd already been doing. However, we did have a unique opportunity because with the COVID-19 pandemic, one of our researchers became a leader in developing a vaccine. So we were very it was easy for us to reach out and share the excitement of this new opportunity. And we were able to raise $3 million in the spring last year, really for a brand new endeavor. Now, as it turns out, this hasn't turned into one of the front runner vaccines. However, it's still a very important platform and might be important going forward. We've continued to engage a group of 10 to 12 donors throughout the entire time period, even just recently when we shared the news that really wasn't going to be an impact for COVID, but likely for future vaccines. And a little bit to my surprise, there was very little disappointment. Everybody was so pleased to have been part of the effort. They actually offered to continue to support the work. So I guess what it tells you is when you have loyal friends who believe in your mission and believe in the science and the partnership, we really gave them a partnership in what we were doing, then they feel great. They want to be a part of it, and they take great pride in that.
Yeah. So, one of the things that we have heard as we've conducted a survey recently of development officers, that staying connected with their major donors, understandably during this time, has been very, very challenging. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the lessons learned that you had as a result of being able to stay connected with some of your major donors? What worked for you, and maybe what do you still struggle with there?
Honestly, I don't think it was terribly hard for us because we have, as I said, we have built a nice, loyal donor base. So initially, when the pandemic hit, the first thing we did is reach out to everybody and ask how they were doing and ask how we can help. So I think that genuine caring and concern, um, it was natural. They loved to hear from us. Nobody knew what was up. We would share information. But then again, also there were people who were alone, and we made, real attempts to talk to them on a regular basis and
Mhm.
make sure that they felt connected. People were home,
Yeah,
and for the most part, people were eager to connect.
yeah,
So that was, I guess, something we always knew in development, but maybe we even had more time to do it, and we were reminded of how important it was to do.
yeah.
Then also with donors who, we kept stewardship up just as strong as ever. We did
Mhm.
stewardship with Zoom calls. Everybody became proficient in Zoom. The donors did. If they didn't want to do Zoom, we did phone calls. But we really kept them engaged in the science, and
Yeah,
that was very positive.
yeah,
So I really think at the heart of everything is care and concern and natural friendship and regard for your
yeah.
donors.
Yeah, those deep relationships will carry you very far. I want to dig in a little bit more on this subject of stewardship. I'd love to spend a few minutes talking with you about your approach to stewardship and some of your um, maybe even philosophy about how you go about this with your team.
Mhm. So I agree. I think thank you, stewardship, and recognition go hand in hand, and they are the most important thing we do as development officers. So, once you get that gift, whatever that gift is, a really thoughtful, meaningful thank you is tremendously important. So we do that a number of ways. I mean, if we're talking about $1 million gift, it would be a series of thank yous. So they would have, usually they're working with the development officer to finalize the gift agreement. So you do the thank you. But then I would immediately have the president pick up the phone and call. I think a very prompt call is really nice. If you can't get them, to leave a message, but make sure there's a call made. We would then do a series of thank you notes. So usually the development office would write a thank you note from the president. We also will do a thank you note from the chairman on their own letterhead outside of the hospital. And then we will ask the principal investigators to write their own. And I like them to write them themselves so it's more genuine, it's in their voice. If there were 3 principal investigators, I want all 3 of them to write them. They all can go out at different times, but we really want the donor to feel like we value the gift and we genuinely really appreciate it in a personal way. So I think thank you is just vital. We'll often send a plant. I know one of my donors loved orchids when I was at her house, so we sent, and she gave $1 million gift, and we sent her the double orchid. And don't chintz out on the flowers. You get them something really lovely and get it there quickly. So I think thank you is so important, and it can be done many ways. Then, as you think about stewardship is absolutely vital. And, I will tell our doctors, we're going to reach out and we're going to update them 1 to 2 times a year. And ideally that's in person or on Zoom. A written report is nice, but takes a lot of time to write and people may not read it. And this is about a relationship business, and people give to people that they like and they respect, and it feels good. So they're going to respond to people more than they're going to respond to a written report. So say we get a gift and 6 months has gone by, and I'll say to the PI, well, it's time to start talking to them about stewardship. And they'll say, I think we should do that in 18 months when we have a really good result. And that's when I begin to re-educate them and say, no, you have to include the donor in the journey. Mm-hmm. So it's hard to get donors, especially donors who give big gifts to a lot of places. You may only get them once a year, but that is important. You need the in-person once a year. In between, you could send off, if a paper were published or a question came up, because you want that personal dialogue. But once a year, you need to be firm and hold down to an in-person meeting. Now, you as a development officer may have to guide them to say, it's okay, you don't have all the answers. Let's share where we are and share what we've learned so far, because it is so important that the donor feel like they understand, feel like they're making a difference, feel like they're appreciated. And that's what it's all about. So, one of my favorite sayings is silence is the kiss of death. If I were to give a lot of money to somebody and I never heard from them again, I'd begin to get skeptical. I'd wonder what they've done with it. We don't ever want people to wonder. Right. We want them to know that their money's gone to good use. And if you have good results or bad results, you share what you've learned and where you're going.
Yeah.
I've never had a donor, I've offered to give donors money back if for whatever reason. No one's ever taken us up on that because they want to make a difference. They understand science has unknowns. So those are some of the stewardship. I guess that's my philosophy on stewardship.
Right. I love this notion that you want to bring donors along with you on the journey. You're working with a wonderful president at Mass Eye and Ear, John Fernandez, who is really actively engaged in the philanthropy process. And by the way, I should take a second to note that I was really happy in our survey that we saw a number of institutions that have indicated that their CEO has been more engaged this past year in the development process. But how do you get John ready? I think there are many people that would love to see their CEO involved in the stewardship process. How do you get John ready to make those calls or to meet with a donor for a thank you? Any tips along in that direction?
I don't think the president can go wrong as long as there's genuine gratitude that they express, and
Yeah,
excitement, and just appreciation. And I think John's always, been so good at that. So, he says, when somebody makes a gift, I learned to say, I was raised to say thank you. So I think if presidents think they have to do a lot more, I would comp them that, just hearing from the president, just hearing
yeah,
that, this research is so important to our mission, and the fact that you're supporting it is so deeply appreciated. And we can't one thing our campaign taught us is that we can do so much more when we raise more. And
right.
so the donors really absolutely make impact. And so I don't think a president needs to be too concerned about it. Really, it's just saying, thank you. You're making a difference. I'm here if I can help you.
Hmm.
And, we appreciate you. And I think that that personal touch and that personal offer for support means so much to our donors.
Yeah. So, Melissa, one of the other things that I've seen happen in your organization as a result of stewardship is the fact that during the campaign, people made multiple gifts. But I think stewardship was helpful to you in that regard. So, can you talk about that a little bit, and the role that stewardship played in maybe multiple gifts?
Absolutely. If you do the routine, regular, rigorous stewardship, the once a year meetings, the staying in touch throughout the year, when it comes time to renew, it's almost easy. This surprised me. We had people who made multiple $1 million campaign gifts during the campaign period, but then since the campaign ended, four of them have renewed at the full level. So whether we're in campaign or not doesn't seem to be a factor. It's the fact that they feel like they're making impact and they've been with us. So some of these were 5-year pledges. So they had been through 5 years of stewardship. And then at the end, they said, well, we want to continue. So
Yeah.
another 5 years. And at the same level. So far in this fiscal year, since our campaign ended, we've closed two $2 million gifts that were renewals, and two $1 million gifts that were renewals. So
Yeah.
that's incredible. And it's absolutely, unquestionably because of stewardship. Big donors need to know the president, they need to know the chief, they need to know the chairman if possible. So they want to feel like they have broad relationships throughout the organization, and that really strengthens their commitment to the organization as a whole.
So, Melissa, I want to end our session today talking a little bit about what makes a really great, successful major gift development officer. You've recruited an incredible team at Mass Ioneer that are very dedicated, passionate individuals. So, can you share some of your ideas about what you look for in a great development officer?
Yes, it's a great question, and one that I've spent a lot of time thinking about over the years as I've hired people, because it's hard to find the right major gift person for each organization. So interesting, I just wrote down four things that all have begin with C's. So caring, I think having a kind, caring personality is really essential for this kind of work. I think you must be curious and be interested in a lot of things, interested in the science, interested in your donors, and learning about who they are. I think you need to be courageous. You have to think big in major gifts. If you really want to move the needle, you've got to think big, and you've got to be willing to try to share that vision with other people. And I think you've got to be very, very creative, to try to think about new ways to communicate, new ways to recognize, all of those things. And then one of the most important things is being compelling, another C. And because strategy is so vitally important to major gifts work. So really thinking strategically, whatever it is you're trying to share with others, whatever you're trying to pitch, what is the best way to do that? Knowing what you know about the donor, what would make them most receptive. If the doctor or the executive director isn't presenting it in quite the right way, how can you help them come around, or how can you help focus them in another direction? And
Mhm.
so those things do take courage. And sometimes you have to stand up and say, geez, in my experience, this way tends to work better and build their confidence. But those are the things I would really look for. I
Mhm.
also think a strong communicator, of course, strong writer is really important, and somebody who has a passion, somebody who's in this field because they love it and they want to make
Mhm.
a difference. And I know for me, every major gift fuels my passion and my excitement, and you want to
Mhm.
find that in others.
Is there anything within yourself that you look for or that you really dive into when you prepare yourself to be bold and courageous and go out there and maybe take on a case that's a little bit more challenging?
Yeah, I think the times when I've seen that we had a prospect that had been very generous to other organizations, which really then that they're a person who values philanthropy, that they could make a big difference. And I think when you see that, you've got to dig deep and say, wow, this is somebody that could really move the needle in my organization. So
Hmm.
when you see those opportunities, you've got to think bigger. For instance, one time we had an opportunity to create a new center. Well, because the donor wanted to help try to solve a problem, but a center isn't one person. So
Yeah.
I had to sort of recruit other people and then help them work together and guide them in the process. And we finally were able to put together an incredibly compelling pitch. We asked for $5 million, and it's really a first time gift, and got 4.5 million. So sort of being the champion behind the
Mm.
scenes, I'll be the first to tell the doctors, you're the expert in the science, you're the expert in the medicine, but I understand, the donors and how to try to bring it forward. So I think you can develop this mutual respect,
Mhm.
and we need to respect the professionals that we're working with. And I think that if we earn their respect, they'll respect us, and together we can make incredible things happen. So
Yeah.
it does take courage sometimes to stand up and say you'd like things to go a different way.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I think if you're really driven by the opportunity and your passion and your excitement and your gut, you got to follow your gut,
Yeah.
then it generally works out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that one of the other things that we all have to be is honest all the time.
Yeah.
So, and that's transparency.
Right.
So if you've got to be honest with everything. I mean, if things don't work out, share it. If you made a mistake, own it. And I think that is what earns trust, both internal in your organization and external. Everybody makes mistakes, but how you deal with those, that's the old saying, but it's really very true.
This has been so much fun. Oh my gosh, my friend, I have loved chatting with you this morning. Any final thoughts before we close up?
No, I mean, I think that I guess I love what I do. And when you find people who love what they do, then they will be successful, hopefully, with some guidance, and really help make incredible things happen in all of these wonderful nonprofit organizations.
Yeah,
So thank you for just sharing a little bit of some of the things that have been successful for me and my team. And I hope it can be helpful for others.
yeah. Thank you, Melissa. We all appreciate it, and best wishes to all of you at Mass Ioneer in your very noble and important pursuits. So
Thank you
thank
so much.
you.
And same to you.